Welcome to the blog. Hi, my name is Autumn. I'm a reader and a writer, and today is going to be a bookish writing vlog. So right now I am in downtown Savannah. I have to go run to a tea shop to grab some of our favorite herbal tea because we're running low. And right around the corner is my all-time favorite bookstore. It's called heyy. I'll leave them linked down below. They're absolutely amazing. You should totally check them out. I don't know if they have an online store, but I have $40 from my birthday that I can spend. So I'm gonna look around and see if they have any of the books that are kind of on my radar. A little bit further down is a used bookstore. I want to go back because last time I had really good luck. And then there's a little coffee shop slash bakery that's a little bit further down that I also want to go to. I don't know which one I want to do first. I know what I want from the tea shop, so I should probably do that first because I think in the bookstore I'm just gonna wander around. That is probably gonna take a little bit more time. But again, welcome to the vlog. I am so happy to have you here and I'm so happy to be downtown. We have had a lot of really cold weather, so it's really nice that it's 70 degrees right now. I can just go out and enjoy the sun, enjoy the downtown area for a little while, and take you along with me. That was a success and I had a lot of fun. I'll show you all the titles that I bought when I get home and I get settled. But I did end up buying some coffee beans. I bought some tea. I spent way too much money and way more than I thought I was going to spend. But it's okay. It's all good. I do need to run to the library. That was something that was on my to-do list. I need to return this book. It was a 4.5 star read. Really loved it. And then we can go ahead and start to mosey on home. And then once we get home, we will talk about writing. And just like that, we are home. First of all, I spent entirely too much money, but I did have a $40 gift card. I got the coffee beans, 3 different kinds of teas. I got one, it's called Tessa's Almond Cookie Lavender Tea, which said was good for nighttime. It's an herbal tea. I got the tea for Ruby, which is the one that my fiance and I like to drink at night too. Those are all of the non-bookish things. I have 5 books that I want to talk to you guys about very briefly. The first 4 books I bought from heyy. So the first book that I got is The Courting of Bristol Keats. I don't think that's right, but it's by Mary E. Pearson. I own the other series that this author wrote. It's actually on my 5 series to finish in 2025. This was 30% off because I guess some of the cats at the bookstore were like gnawing on the pages. Hopefully it's the cat. We're just gonna say it's a cat and not a mouse because that's gonna gross me out. But I guess when there's like some damage, they put them on a different shelf and they're like 30% off. So this next one, it was a cover buy. I read a little bit of the synopsis and it completely had me just mesmerized. They're Monstrous Hearts by Yegat Turan. I don't think that's how you pronounce that author's name. A haunting novel about the boundaries people will cross to keep their dreams alive. So this one, I'm not gonna gloss over, but I'm just gonna briefly talk about it because it was an anticipated spring release, and it's The Sirens by Emily Hart. And the last one from heyy, Fun for the Whole Family by Jennifer E. Smith. The last book that I also thought was an anticipated spring release, which it's not. I don't know where my mind was for that, but this one I ended up getting at the used bookstore. I felt like it was a pretty good price, but it's Wolfsong by TJ Klune. I think I've read 2 books by this author. At first, I thought that this wasn't a completed series, but then when I kept digging, it's the start of a 4-book series. So at least the series is completed, so I went ahead and just bought the first book. So that's my little mini haul. I am going to drink some water and set up in my office because I want to do a little bit of writing for the next like hour or so, and I want us to talk about my writing. In my last few updates, we have been slowly working on expanding my outline, but working on draft 2. I still cannot express enough how much this way of drafting the story has been working for me. For this chapter, for chapter 15, I made a lot of progress with working on the main plot of the story in this character's perspective. And this character, this isn't a spoiler, but this character is more of acting as the antagonist of the story. And I really wanted to give this character a voice. She knows a lot of the secrets, you know, a lot of what other people don't know in this world. So the decisions that she's making, while a lot of them seem a little cruel and seem pretty harsh, understanding her perspective and understanding where she's coming from with the knowledge that she has, it kind of makes sense with the reason why she's the way she is. I want her to be the villain that we understand why she's making the choices that she's making. And I call her the villain, but she's more morally gray. She pretty much does what she needs to do, not necessarily for her to survive, but to keep whatever bigger thing is going on in the world, to kind of keep that at bay. I love this character, but I think that she's really complex in this outline and creating her. I really don't even think I have scratched the surface with this character. I feel like she is so in-depth, so complicated, and so complex that it's gonna take me a few rounds of writing her character. And honestly, I think it's gonna take several rounds of even getting other people's eyes on this character and getting other feedback and perspectives on her to really do this character justice. We're a little bit past the interlude, and it's like right before part 3, I think, part 2. I thought we were working on part 2 last time. I might have it a little flip-flopped in my draft. I feel like the last time we were talking, I said draft 2, act 2. I think I said in my last update we were in part 1 of act 2. So her chapter here, this is like so wildly confusing. Her chapter right here is right before part 2 of act 2. While I've been working on the main plot of this story, also saying, you know, she's a very complex character, I'm trying to work through a couple of subplots I have for her too, build her relationships with other characters that also have point of views, but characters who don't have perspectives. I really want one of those other subplots to support the main plot of this story, but it's a little bit more deeper into her and to her background. I need to think and play with that a little bit. I know when I did my rough outline in the Excel spreadsheet, I had said something like expand more on her backstory, and I think I want to spend a little bit of time thinking about her backstory. While I don't want to go into huge big details, I want to add enough for myself so when I go back and I'm adding and expanding on this story, I can dive a little bit deeper into her backstory here. I also need to add a little bit more world building to this chapter. Working on the magic system too, I want to connect the world building, the magic, to her backstory and a little bit of the subplot. I think I nail all of that into one. I need to make sure there aren't any other characters that I'm introducing for the first time, where her location is going to be in the world. Chapter 15 is going to be quite a beast, and I think that's also why I broke up that chapter, because I knew I was going to have to sit and think about it for a good bit. But then the next chapter is going to be in part 2 of act 2, and this chapter is going to be introducing a new character, and I'm really pretty excited. So this character is going to represent a pretty powerful piece in this story for our main character, not the antagonist, but our protagonist. So I'm really excited and I cannot wait. This next chapter, chapter 16, is taking place in a different part of the world that I haven't introduced yet. I want to compare it to what we've seen in the other parts of this world, how we are slowly learning about all of the different things that are going on in the world, but how it's all going to be connected. That's what I'm going to aim for, is to finish chapter 15 and work through chapter 16. Okay, so I don't know why the background looks like that. What is that even from? That looks so creepy. I don't know what's going on the wall behind me, but just ignore it. You probably didn't even see it until I pointed it out. I have been writing for about 45 minutes. I worked on chapter 15, finished that. One thing that I really love about the antagonist, I feel like she's gonna be one of my favorites, honestly. I ended up working on chapter 16. I finished chapter 16, but this chapter I'm kind of going back to a little bit as I am working through the next chapter, which is chapter 17. Chapter 17 follows my all-time favorite character. Absolutely love this character. I talked about her, I think, in last week's video. I've been going a little bit back to chapter 16. Since this is her first chapter, I really am trying to establish this character immediately, where she's at in the world, why she is where she is, and I want to give a little bit of backstory to this character. This is her first chapter from her perspective, but we talked about her a few chapters ago, and then in chapter 15 I wanted to kind of mention her again. Was it see, that's where I'm a little stuck, is because I don't want to immediately introduce, like, say her again and then she immediately gets the next chapter. I think I might get rid of the 1 or 2 lines that I had of her from the antagonist's point of view, and I might save that for the antagonist's chapters in a few. I don't think she gets another chapter until chapter 21, so that might be a good time to say whatever the antagonist is thinking about her. I might actually do that. Now that I'm talking it out with you, that makes me feel a little bit better. I kept going back to chapter 16 because in a few chapters before, I'm like all over the place with this update, guys, so sorry. A few chapters before this one, when I had introduced her, I was going back through some of the subplots also, and there are a few of the subplots that I need to put back into the story because they're about to be important again, since they've been mentioned before, name dropped, and then now we're on chapter 16. So I went back through and I tweaked it a little bit. So how I've been structuring it, that might not make sense, but how I've been structuring it is I have my main plot, and then whenever I have a subplot, I drop down a couple of lines, and then I'll say subplot number 1, and then I'll write what I want to add to that subplot, and then I'll drop down another little bit. Subplot number 2 comes back up, and then I'll add what I want for that subplot to that section. I hope I explained that correctly or in a way that makes sense. That was what I did. I finished chapter 16 and now I'm on chapter 17, and chapter 17 is a chapter with my all-time favorite character in it. I absolutely love this character. And so I did pretty much the same with what I just said. I went back to a few of the other chapters to see what her subplots were, and then that kind of refreshed me, like, these are the other things she's got going on. I'm adding a lot more world building in chapter 17. So this character, she is the queen of the islands in this world. Not all of them, but there are 3 main islands that play a really significant role to this story. We're learning more about her islands and the culture on her islands. There's also some things like natural disaster things that are happening on her islands that she is concerned about, and she's concerned about her people. She's concerned about her family. So she's kind of pondering those thoughts right now. She also knows a really big secret of something that is being kept on her island. Is that a spoiler? No, that's not a spoiler because we do know that. I think that's something in part 1. She knows where a certain something is exactly located, but claims she doesn't know. In her mind, we're talking about the significance of this thing on her islands, and we're learning a little bit more about how that thing ties into the rest of the world and the world building and the magic system. I didn't think for these last couple of chapters I needed to introduce any new characters, so I think I'm okay for now. In chapter 16, I know I just talked about 17, but let's go back to chapter 16. In chapter 16, this character has pretty much been by herself. She's our lone wolf. For that chapter, I didn't think she really needed anybody. I don't think I needed to introduce anybody else in that chapter, but of course that can change the more I learn about the story. These characters, I can always add somebody there. But what I was also thinking about in this story, there are 1 or 2 characters that I've given voices. I don't know if I want to keep their chapters. I'm not going to make any of those hard changes right now. As I'm learning more about this story, I think that there are going to be a few other characters that we, and the whole story itself, we might benefit more from other character perspective. One of the characters that I haven't given a voice, but I think his voice would actually be a really solid contrast to one of my other characters that has a few chapters, is the protagonist's advisor. The reason I feel like his voice would actually be pretty solid in this story, he knows a lot more about this story. Not so much where I feel like his point of view would take away some of the mystery of the story, but I think learning about his view of this world and the decisions that he makes, I think it would make a really solid contrast to someone else in this world, and someone else's perspective. And I think it would add a layer of uncertainty in such a way where you as the reader are like, I actually don't know who's good or bad. Who is doing the right thing and who is not doing the right thing. I'm not going to add his chapters yet. I think I need to get through laying out this outline and seeing where everybody's at, everybody is in the characters, where their stance is in the world, and how I'm feeling about them a little bit later. I think it would be a really great idea, which kind of sucks because he doesn't have an original point of view. But it's okay. We're still in the early stages of drafting, so anything's possible. Anyone can be added, can get cut. That's where I'm at right now. Boy, are we making progress. This has been an amazing writing session. I am working on chapter 18. I wanted to take a second because I had a few thoughts. When I started working on draft 2, I am doing this format that I'm doing. What I am really loving about it, one of the mystery type aspects of the story, while it's not a mystery at its core, there are some things of this world that are mysterious. That sounds so weird to say because it is a high fantasy adventure novel. There was something that I had dropped a couple of seeds in a few of the previous chapters that when I was going back through to see, you know, where do I need to make sure I reiterate these certain things, I really just wanted to like pat myself on the back to say that I really loved how I did one of these things. While I haven't written out these chapters yet, there was something that I felt like was pretty clever in a couple of different chapters. I had two different POVs send out letters. This person sent a letter, sent a pigeon to whoever. And then we had this guy over here send out letters to somebody else. In one of the chapters that I'm working on, it all kind of comes full circle where we don't know which of these two characters sent the letter that now this person has. I really loved that I had that idea. It is reiterating who is on what side. I think I'm going to keep writing a little bit more. I wanted to talk to you guys about that since it was a thought of mine. I'll go ahead and call it quits for the vlog today. The next time we have a vlog and we have a little writing update, I can update you guys on the remaining session of today. Thank you all so much for coming along with me with a lot of the reading and the writing and all of it. It was a really fun day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.